Bianca, and this is Alicia, and this is our video report. And both Alicia and I analyzed two students who are both going into the science field. And one thing that I learned from Yara, who's actually going to be an engineer major, is that as far as her learning aspect of it, it has a lot to do with accommodation and assimilation and how she has to accommodate to the specific ways that she learns as far as formulas and things like that. And it's not just, for example, like I'm a business major, it doesn't really have to do with memorizing because that doesn't really work. It all has to do with accommodating and assimilating like what you've learned and, being able to apply those concepts.
And the person that I interviewed is kind of like the same kind of thing. It's like if you already like think a certain way, it's a lot harder to figure out because you have to like change the way you're thinking to understand like all the different concepts. They're not like a broad way of thinking that will like apply to all of them. You have to have specific thinking that can like go to each one, and you have to be able to change back and forth between that thinking.
Right. And we were discussing before too is that although they're different, what was her major?
She's dietics.
She's dietics, and the person I interviewed was engineering. Although they're different majors, they kind of have to use the same form of learning, whereas you have to kind of understand the concept and be able, like when she was explaining, is that she uses like a drawing formation, and Yara uses like continuing to write the formulas down to kind of help her memorize it, but also be able to still use it and apply it. Whereas if I'm looking at a flashcard, I wouldn't say it stays in my long-term memory. And that kind of goes off to like new thoughts that I learned about others too. I learned that we obviously all learn differently, but as far as our majors go, it kind of does benefit science majors or math majors as well to kind of writing things out and continuing to not only just understand the concept, but being able to continue to apply it, because these are now your major classes, and to memorize it, it's not really going to benefit you in the long run. Whereas if you memorize a flashcard, it might stay there for you for, let's say, a couple weeks, but in the long term, it won't help you out. But if you were to write it out, it kind of just sticks with you and helps you accommodate it to your further classes.
And then like another thing I've noticed about other people is like, even though everyone kind of has like their own different styles of learning, obviously, like some people can be similar, but you still have like that little quirk that makes like your way of like learning something different. So it's like you do like what benefits you the best, even though it might be like highly similar or something else. Something I like learned from myself about it from the experience is like the partner that I interviewed, she had to for a class like draw out the human body, and she said like from drawing it, it helped her so much more than like sitting there and studying it and looking at diagrams. And that's like something that helps me too. You don't really like recognize that until like someone else brings it up and you're like, oh hey, I kind of do the same thing. So like
Right.
for me, it's easier to like draw a diagram and like refer to the diagram, kind of like how Bianca's person like rewrites formulas over and over. Like if I draw the same thing, it kind of like sticks better for me than if I just look at a picture or like look at the words trying to like memorize it.
Right. And what I learned about myself as well, like although obviously my major is completely different, being like on the business aspect of it, I noticed too though when I do write a specific vocabulary word or something like that, where writing it out does help you kind of just stick to it, because not only are you using like you're physically writing it out, but you've already seen it in a book, and now the fact that you're writing it out is just it becomes something that's like a process and like repetitive to you, that you now just see it more so often, and it kind of just shows you that even though you have like obviously we're all different learners and we all learn differently, just tailored to our individuality, we all still kind of use the same processes, I guess you would say, to make sure that it stays in our long-term memory.
For our implications for teaching, neither one of us are a
Are gonna be a
teaching
teacher.
major. I am going into speech pathology though, so I am going to be like working with people, trying to like help them learn kind of whatever. So it helps to know that like each person is different, but like you can find small differences to kind of like help them learn in the same way that like someone else learns. I want to go into like working with kids, so that helps too. Like when we learned about plasticity and all that, it's like quick learning. So like figuring out a way someone learns, and then you can like find stronger ways to like implement that to keep them like going and keep them like learning in the same way. Or like if that doesn't work, you have to find like a new way that will like work for them. So interviewing someone and hearing about like the different ways that they learn or they do things kind of gives you like a set of ideas of like alternatives that you could use if like the first try doesn't work, then you have like other things you can go for.
I also am not going into the teaching, but I'm going into business and I want to go into public relations, which does involve, help being with people and kind of accommodating to their needs. And so that kind of just goes off of like learning or understanding that we all are different learners and being able to tailor to different people, because in the business field you kind of have to satisfy different people's needs, and obviously everyone's needs are different, and you might not agree with everyone, but as someone who's working for, has different types of clients, you have to be able to tailor to them and be able to understand how to accommodate to their needs, and how to go off of what they know or what they're trying to give off to you, and still bring that into some sort of a business way. And I think what I learned from this experiment and being able to see different learners is that we all learn differently, but it definitely, we all kind of just tailor to each other's needs, and at the same time, like it kind of, regardless of how, like what different processes we use, like she was saying, we all have like a different quirk or things, like a specific thing that we do that kind of helps us learn better. Some people are more visual learners, some people like to just are like picture learners and can just look at something and memorize it automatically. And so you kind of just have to be able to accommodate to a specific need and be able to use that in the future and things like that. So that definitely helped us, and we definitely both our people had a lot of similarities. So that was definitely something that stuck out to us, is that a lot of accommodation and assimilation was key, and being able to tailor one's needs to a specific class really did help. And that's it.